The truth is darker than you've ever imagined. A woman can betray everything, her values, her family, even her children. If she believes the man before her is powerful enough to own her chaos, that's not fantasy, that's biology, that's history. In ancient wars, when a tribe was conquered, the women didn't run. They adapted. They married their enemies and gave birth to their blood, not because they wanted to, but because survival isn't sentimental, and the feminine instinct isn't bound to morals, it's bound to power. She may call you toxic, but if you radiate dominance, if your silence is stronger than her chaos, she will submit. Not out of love, but out of something deeper, something she doesn't understand. But you must. Freud wasn't trying to insult women. He was trying to decode them. He believed that beneath every choice, every emotion, every seduction was a war raging between what a woman wants and what she's been trained to want. She doesn't fully understand why she's drawn to danger, why she pulls away when it feels too safe, why she destroys the man who offers her peace, but surrenders to the one who threatens her sanity. Freud saw this not as confusion, but as structure. Her ID, her primal core, seeks power, protection, pleasure. It doesn't care about morality. It doesn't care about your kindness. It only cares, can he dominate my chaos? Her superego, the voice of her culture, her parents, her wounds, judges that desire, shames it, tells her it's wrong. And in between those forces, her ego tries to survive. That's why she runs hot and cold, why she wants you then attacks you, why she seems emotionally unstable, but always in control of your attention. Because deep in her unconscious, love is not peace. Love is power. And if you don't understand this, you'll mistake her tests for affection, her silence for mystery, her confusion for innocence, and you'll miss the one truth she'll never say out loud. She doesn't want to feel safe. She wants to feel claimed. Sigmund Freud didn't start as a rebel. He began as a doctor trying to understand why people suffered. But the deeper he looked into the human mind, the more disturbing the answers became, especially when it came to women. He didn't trust appearances, not smiles, not manners, not even emotion. Because what fascinated Freud was the unconscious, the part of the mind that speaks without words, acts without reason, and wants without permission. And when he began to study female desire, not what women said they wanted, but what they were drawn to, he uncovered something that shattered the social fantasy. It wasn't romantic, it wasn't soft, it wasn't safe. It was raw, primitive, rooted in survival and submission to power. Freud watched women abandon gentle men and obsess over those who triggered their shame, fear, or longing. He noticed their words didn't match their instincts. Their guilt didn't stop their patterns. He called it repression, a defense mechanism that hides what the mind can't accept. Women were repressing their own truth, and society was helping them do it. And when Freud tried to expose it, the world recoiled. He was mocked, censored, even hated. Not because he was wrong, but because he was too right. Because no one, not even the woman herself, wants to admit what truly drives her. You think she's ignoring you, that her silence means disinterest. But Freud would tell you this isn't about you. It's about her mind protecting itself from something it can't handle. Her silence is not absence. It's a carefully designed response from her unconscious mind, a defense mechanism. When the ID inside her, her primal hunger for connection, wakes up, it terrifies the rest of her, because deep inside the little girl she once was, still lives. And that girl learned one thing early. Love leads to abandonment. Maybe she cried in a room where no one came. Maybe she reached for her father and found emotional vacancy. That experience didn't vanish. It sank into the unconscious. Now, as an adult, that pain disguises itself as control. It whispers, "Disappear before he gets too close." So when you message her and she doesn't respond yet, still watches your stories, lingers in your shadow, understand you didn't lose her interest. You triggered her unresolved wounds. This is repression in action. Her mind buries the parts of herself that long for you because the superego warns closeness is danger. The ego tries to mediate. Don't reply, don't feel, stay in control. She doesn't vanish to hurt you. She vanishes to protect the fragile system that keeps her functioning. You're not dealing with a woman, you're dealing with her history, with patterns older than your name in her phone, with the echo of nights she cried alone and told herself, never again. And here's the tragic paradox. The more authentic you become, the more dangerous you feel to her unconscious, because you bring warmth, and her nervous system was trained to expect cold. You offer presence, but her mind was sculpted by absence. Don't take her silence personally. Take it as a sign of how much she's still fighting herself. And remember, when a woman runs without reason, it's not always fear of you. It's fear of what you awaken. She looks at you like she wants you. Her smile lingers. Her body language draws you in. But just when you step closer, she pulls back. She hints, teases, retreats, and you're left confused, trapped between invitation and rejection. This is not immaturity, it's psychological warfare, and Freud saw it long before Tinder ever existed. He called it the conflict between the ID and the superego. The ID wants the thrill, connection, intimacy, dominance, surrender. It doesn't care about morality, tradition, or timing, but the superego judges every urge. It whispers shame. Be a good girl, don't give in, and so the mind splits. This split becomes sexual manipulation, not always conscious but always strategic. As a child, she learned that attention equals survival. If she could be desirable, she could be safe. But full surrender, that was never safe. That was punished. Now in adulthood, she seduces without intention. The cleavage, the slow blink, the subtle touch. It activates your masculine chase reflex. She wants to be desired, but not possessed. She wants to be seen, but not claimed. This is what Freud called reaction formation. When someone expresses the opposite of what they truly feel to defend themselves, she may want closeness but acts distant. She may feel sexual desire but speaks of boundaries and purity, because acknowledging the real feeling would shatter her illusion of control. You think she's hot and cold, but in truth, she's split between hunger and fear. Her ego sits in the middle, desperately trying to manage the chaos. It tells her, flirt, but don't commit. Control the narrative. Stay in power. And every time you lean in too much, her unconscious mind screams, run. You can't win this game by playing along. If you chase her body, she'll crucify your soul. But if you understand the script, if you see the performance without reacting to it, you become untouchable. Because a woman can manipulate the man who wants her, but she cannot control the man who knows himself. And that terrifies her more than love ever could. You think she's special because she's rare, because she's different, because she doesn't need anyone. But what you're feeling isn't attraction, it's scarcity. Freud would tell you this isn't about her, it's about what she represents to your unconscious mind. The missing piece of love you never received. When a woman goes cold, becomes distant, detached, your ID panics. It screams, don't lose this, fight, prove your worth. But that urge is not coming from love. It's coming from lack. As a child, maybe your mother gave affection inconsistently. Maybe she was emotionally unpredictable, loving one moment, punishing the next. That trained your nervous system to chase approval. You learned that love is something to earn, not receive. So now when a woman mirrors that same distance, your unconscious says, this is familiar, this is home, and you fall for the trap, not because she's special, but because her behavior reactivates an old wound. She doesn't need to say anything. Her silence becomes a mirror reflecting all the moments you felt invisible as a boy. And you don't just want her attention, you want to heal. But here's the poison. The more scarce she becomes, the more valuable she feels, not because she's actually rare, but because your brain is wired to equate absence with worth. This is what Freud called displacement. You're not chasing her. You're chasing the emotional ghost of your past. You're not attracted to her. You're addicted to the feeling of trying to matter, and she knows. Even if not consciously, she senses the power. The moment she withholds affection, your masculinity destabilizes. Your self-worth gets outsourced to her attention. But here's the harsh truth. No woman should have that power over your nervous system. Until you stop associating emotional starvation with love, You'll keep crawling back to women who feed you crumbs and make you believe it's a feast. You don't rise by earning her validation. You rise by recognizing the script and refusing to act in it, because true power begins the moment you stop chasing your childhood through the bodies of modern women. She tells you she's ready. She says, "You're the one." She talks about babies, future, marriage, and for a moment you feel chosen, but suddenly something shifts. The dream collapses. She changes her mind, or worse, blames you for the very thing she promised. What just happened? Freud called this projection the unconscious act of displacing inner conflict onto someone else. She wasn't lying to you, she was lying to herself. And you were just the stage she performed it on. In the beginning, her ID was awakened, her instinctual desire to attach, to be desired, to imagine a future, but as that vision grew closer to reality, her superego, the inner critic, shaped by family, trauma and fear, began to whisper, "You're not ready. He'll leave. This will end badly." That internal war created dissonance, and instead of facing it, she projected it onto you. Suddenly, you became the unstable one. You became the reason she couldn't trust love. You became the excuse her unconscious needed to escape. This isn't new. As children, when emotions were too overwhelming, our minds created narratives to protect us. Women who experienced emotional abandonment or pressure growing up often develop a deep fear of actual commitment. But they still crave the illusion of it, the fantasy, the safety, the identity of being wanted. So they borrow your stability to create their fantasy and then destroy it the moment reality arrives. It's reaction formation. She acts like she wants family loyalty forever, but unconsciously fears the vulnerability it demands. So she flips, sabotages, tells herself I was wrong about him, when in truth she was never clear about herself. And here's where most men collapse. They internalize the guilt, tried to fix what was never theirs to fix, begged to prove their worth inside someone else's inner war. But you cannot win a battle that lives inside her unconscious. You cannot save someone from the lies they need to believe. The wise man doesn't argue with her switch. He recognizes the script and exits the theater, because a woman who projects her chaos onto you is not building a life. She's building a shield, and you are the casualty it's made from. She mocks you, dismisses your masculinity, calls you arrogant, cold, controlling. She says, "I could never be with a man like you." And yet she keeps showing up, keeps circling, keeps watching. This isn't confusion, it's reaction formation. Freud's term for when a person expresses the opposite of what they truly feel, because the truth is too dangerous to admit. What she hides is attraction. What she fears is submission. What she disguises as contempt is an aching, suffocating need for masculine dominance. Her words are a mask, but her biology doesn't lie. She critiques the very traits her ID craves: strength, mystery, power. Why? Because she was never taught how to love what she desires, only how to fear it. Maybe she grew up under the weight of a weak father, or the grip of an overbearing one. Maybe she learned that wanting a powerful man made her less than or not feminist enough, or just another girl giving in. So her superego, that voice shaped by social judgment and internal shame, launches a defense. He's toxic, he's unsafe, he's probably a narcissist. It's easier to shame the desire than to surrender to it. So she attacks you with words, hoping they'll kill the part of herself that wants to be claimed. And every time you hold your frame, every time you refuse to bend to her emotional noise, she hates you more. But that hatred is laced with arousal, because your masculine stillness is the very gravity her chaos secretly longs for. This is where men fall into the trap. They start defending themselves, explaining, apologizing. They try to correct the image she projects, not realizing they've just submitted to it. But the man who understands projection never reacts to the insult. He listens to what her unconscious is really saying. Your presence makes me feel things I was trained to suppress. And the only response to that is silence, stillness, power. Because when a woman tries to fight you for the control she secretly wants you to take, you don't negotiate. You don't retreat, you don't chase, you just hold, And in that holding, her mask begins to crack. You thought you wanted her, but if you strip away the beauty, the curves, the chaos, what's left? A pattern, a familiar ache, a reenactment. Freud said, the unconscious mind repeats what it never resolved, that we seek out the same pain, not because we enjoy suffering, but because suffering feels like home. And that's the illusion. You weren't chasing a woman, you are chasing the ghost of your unmet needs, the woman who ignores you, who pulls you close then disappears, who mirrors your mother's absence or your father's coldness. She feels real because she activates the boy inside you, the one who still believes if I can get her to love me, I'll finally be enough. But that was never her job, and the deeper betrayal isn't hers. It's yours. You betrayed yourself the moment you made her the solution to your inner void. And worst of all, you believed that if you suffered just right, if you played the role just well enough, you'd finally be chosen. But you weren't in love. You were hypnotized by emotional scarcity, by unhealed memory, by the secret hope that if you could fix her, you'd repair the boy. And that's why it keeps breaking you. Because no woman can mother the man who won't father himself. The illusion was never her attention. It was the belief that your worth depends on it. You don't fight the game by reacting. You end the game by leaving the arena. The woman who tests, withholds, seduces and withdraws, she's not your opponent. She's a mirror. And your only job is to stop flinching when you see your reflection. Freud taught that real power doesn't come from repression, but from sublimation, taking your chaotic instincts, the hunger, the need, the ache, and redirecting them into something higher so you feel the urge to chase her. Pause, hold that fire, and aim it at your becoming. Because the man she cannot manipulate is not the one who wins her, it's the one who doesn't need to. While she's posting stories to provoke you, you're building muscle, physical, mental, spiritual. While she's measuring her worth in attention, you're sharpening your purpose in solitude. Let your silence become surgical. Let your indifference carry the weight of a man who remembers who he is. Your ego is no longer negotiating between your Ed's cravings and her superego's games. It stands grounded in reality, not hers, not society's, but yours. Because emotional sovereignty means this. You feel everything, but obey nothing that doesn't serve your path. You no longer seek women who test your value. You attract women who recognize it because it's carved into your presence, and if they don't, you stay unmoved. Not because you're cold, but because your warmth is earned, not extracted. The feminine isn't healed by being worripped. She's healed by witnessing a man who will not fold, not for beauty, not for guilt, not for loneliness, and that man is born the moment you choose yourself. Over her attention, over her confusion, over the comfort of being chosen by someone who hasn't chosen themselves. You don't need her to understand. You don't need closure. You don't need a conversation, a text, or an apology. Because silence is its own answer, and clarity is its own revenge. Let her play her games. Let her confuse herself with freedom. Let her run from the fire she secretly prayed for. You are not here to be understood by chaos. You are here to transcend it. Every man must one day walk away, not with anger, not with pain, but with a strange, sacred stillness, the kind that only comes when you stop chasing ghosts. She was never yours. She was a reflection of your forgotten wound. And now you no longer bleed for mirrors. You don't punish her. You don't fix her. You don't wait for her to grow. You disappear with dignity, with depth. Because the greatest threat to a woman who manipulates is not a man who resists her. It's a man who no longer reacts at all, and that is where her power ends, and yours begins.